Actors, we've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm your host, Juan Ayala, and this is Actors with Issues. Hello, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends. Welcome back to another episode of Actors with Issues, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of entertainment. I am your host, Juan Ayala, and each week we bring you intimate conversations with actors from the world of TV, film, and Broadway. From sharing their career journeys to discussing challenges that they have faced and conquered, we discuss it all. Today's guest is a performer you've seen in the revival of Are You Afraid of the Dark, the action-packed series A Terminal List, and in the new coming-of-age comedy Snack Shack, now playing in theaters. Please welcome Conor Sherry. Conor, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So let's sort of turn back time a bit, not to quote Cher. There I go, aging myself. So take us back a bit. When did you sort of first get into acting, and then what was it that sort of convinced you to want to pursue it on a career level?
Yeah, I mean, I've been acting my whole life, and then professionally, I've been out in LA about 5 years now. But yeah, growing up, I did theater, a lot of improv. I did speech and debate, which is kind of
Yeah.
kind of acting on the speech side, which was really a big deal for me. Impacted me. Yeah, so it's really just a matter of getting to LA. I always knew this is what I wanted to do, and UCLA allowed me to afford to be able to move to LA.
Yeah.
So then I was able to, go for it once I got out here. But yeah.
And in those early years when you were starting out, was there sort of like a particular like trajectory or game plan that you had? Was it more TV and film you wanted to do? Did you want to do more theater? What's that sort of look like?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. My originally my plan was to do comedy, like all out. Like that was the whole thing. I was gonna go for SNL. I was gonna move to New York. I interned in Scotland at this whole improv thing. That was the plan.
Mm.
And then when I got to LA and thought about how I wanted to sort of be perceived in the industry professionally, I decided that I knew that I wanted to do comedy, but I wanted to put a focus on doing drama also.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I felt like doing that first was important because I always knew that I could go back and do the broader, bigger comedy. And that was just through like kind of my own research. So who knows if that is something that's true, but doing Terminal List and Are You Afraid of the Dark was a great experience for me. And then Snack Shack is a blend of both, which was like the dream. So yeah.
Yeah. And sort of, speaking of those other projects with Are You Afraid of the Dark? I mean, it is this iconic series that I remember growing up in the 90s. And sort of it when they announced that it was going to be brought back, like I was like many 90s babies and, younger millennials were all very excited. Just because, a lot of those episodes were like super creepy in those early days and just
Mm.
when you're young, you sort of convince yourself that like, oh, this is terrifying. But then like when you look back, maybe it's nostalgia or whatever that it sort of still convinces you that it's still pretty scary. But you're like, oh, this is a little cheesier than I remember.
Yeah, no, totally. It was cool with that one too, because most of the people that I talked to that knew the show were not current Nickelodeon watchers. So it was
Right.
a lot of the actual fan base was, I think, people that were watching it for nostalgia, kind of like what you
Yeah.
said, which was really fun. But yeah.
Yeah, and working on a horror series, like, I mean, I always give sort of lots of credit to actors who work on horror projects because you have to keep like the energy, you have to stay amped up, the stakes are high for hours on end.
Mhm.
What would you say was your takeaway from working on that show and sort of that aspect of sort of serialized individual storytelling like per episode?
I think for me, what was really impactful was just to get comfortable on a set.
Mhm.
It was the first, Terminal List. I was very in and out. I shot for a week and then I was gone for a month, and it was very, I wasn't. My part was just there for a couple scenes. Uh, but Are You Afraid of the Dark? I really got to get comfortable on a set, doing scenes, seeing how everything works, and yeah, the energy thing was a lot. I think also I was only one of two in the Midnight Society that was an adult. So we would shoot with full energy, shoot out the whole cast, and then they would all get released because they're, minors. And then I would have to do the same energy with no one around me, which was, yeah, it's a little more difficult to be terrified when you're the only one being terrified
Yeah.
in a scene, but it was fun.
And with the Terminal List, it being such sort of a big production, again, this very action-packed series, sort of partly sci-fi and then other, partly action and whatnot. What would you say was like the biggest lesson learned working on that?
Yeah, it was really huge for me for my first project that really was my first time on a legit set,
Mm.
uh, to just see Chris Pratt and how he functions. He he was also a producer on it, but also obviously the star of it. And God, he just led the entire set. He was nice. Wasn't going to his trailer. He had lunch with everyone. He would talk to everyone. So funny. And I think seeing that from such a kind of bona fide star for me was really amazing because it was like that's what I want to be. I didn't see a
Yeah.
star that was being rude or like any of that stuff. It was just a great kind of person for me to look up to and a first experience. It was, yeah. So I think that part, it was kind of beyond the acting. It was more how to carry yourself and how to, be an actor on a set, which was great.
Yeah. And having done both TV and film, do you have a preference for like the longer arcs that television usually has to offer, like building the world season for seasons on end, or do you like the more sort of like succinct and complete stories that one film would do?
I I'm kind of back and forth. I love how much TV shows can dig into stuff and like really like get into things. But the experience on Snack Shack, I mean, with a writer director doing Adam's story, it was unreal. I mean, it definitely got me. I'm totally into movies now. I really want to do movies, and I think like that experience was very it just was really special, and to kind of have one product and to know that the editing is all very intentional, and
Yeah.
Adam cared so much that we all felt very safe. TV, I think, can feel a little more spread out. Like you don't know who's editing it, you don't know who's here, you don't know who's there, which works, and you have more time. But yeah, movies just feel very intentional, which I really appreciated and was really fun to do.
Yeah. Especially with television, like per episode, I mean, for the majority of shows, per episode's a different writer, same writer's room, but per every episode is a different director.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and the sort of like the first ADs usually swap out episode and episode as they're prepping the next one. And yeah, it's very much sort of a different vibe and whatnot. But fast
even the
forwarding
same
to Snack Shack, as you said, as we said, coming of age story, very sort of like raunchy. Again, it reminded me of it takes place in the 90s, but it reminded me of films from that era of
yeah.
of all these like sort of like teen rom-coms and the American Pies of the world and that whole thing. And going back even before that, like the National Lampoon movies and all that I grew up because of my parents.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like what was your biggest takeaway from that, from having sort of like your first lead in a feature?
I think also the role of AJ was really special because not only was it my first lead in a movie, but he really gets to go through such an arc in the movie. I mean, he has the ups and the downs every first of a 15-year-old, and that was really the kind of the coolest thing about it is I got to experience every kind of emotion and show that. And I think my biggest takeaway, honestly, not to piggyback on the answer from Terminalist, but I got to watch a movie get made. Like I was the first actor called and the last to leave every single day, and getting to see, like I knew it was a lot of work because of the days I'm on set, I see everyone running around, but this is the first time I was on set every day, and to see the consistency that a crew needs to have.
Yeah.
Like actors have to be consistent when you're there, but you usually will get a day off, and to see that was really really cool. And really it really changed my perspective on, I mean, yeah, the crew is there yeah, it was wild. I mean, I know it was a lot of work, but I didn't realize it was like
Yeah.
everyone has to be on every single day in the crew, and that was really cool to see kind of an indie film get made, the ups, the downs, the victories. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was really the greatest thing I think.
And I want to, I just generally, I always love to give shout outs to crews, especially with what's going on right now with IATSE and the sort of those labor unions and whatnot. So is there anyone in particular that you feel is maybe like an unsung hero on a set in terms of the
Ooh.
crew?
In on like general sets or on Snack Shack?
On both. I feel like it might
Both.
change.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think. Well, on Snack Shack, the thing is Adam used the same crew that he used on Dinner in America, which was his last movie.
Mm.
So when, Gabe and I arrived in Nebraska, it was already this tight-knit family. Everyone loved everyone. They did Dinner in America, had such success with that. It's such a great film. You should watch it. It's on Hulu.
Mm.
And so they were all very excited to kind of tell Adam's story. So Adam was appreciative and friends with all these people. But I think in general, honestly, I gotta say, like the set designer, our Frankie's was a great friend of Adam's, and she's amazing. She killed it with Snack Shack. But I do feel like the people that are doing like the little details aren't always appreciated, especially in like a period piece. They're stressing, like hardcore stressing to get the right like cereal box label on it, right, and printed and put on and all that. So I feel like that's something that goes unnoticed until there's like one mistake, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, there was a a cheese it." They weren't cheese. I mean, that wasn't in Snack Shack, but I'm like, "Geez," but you forgot that they transformed an entire world, like stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say the set designers for
Yeah.
sure.
I was gonna say there's always like those YouTube and Instagram accounts that are like that pick up on like continuity errors and whatnot, and they're like, oh, that was their logo in 1995. This is set in 92. It's like, well, guys, come on, like, can we give
I'm
them their
like,
flowers where it's due?
please, I'm like, can you look up the budget of the movie? Like, let's have all those people discuss the budget before they go into that.
Right.
I'm like, but yeah, that's funny.
And since you got started so young, I'm curious, do you have any advice for like the parents of child actors who, since you've been in the business for a bit now, anything you know now that you wish you learned earlier on as a kid?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't acting professionally as a kid. So I was doing all like theater growing up, like community theater in my high school and all that. And I mean, I don't know, the advice is probably my mom wouldn't let me audition. That was her whole thing. Like she was like, when you're 18, you can go for it. She now says she's like, I knew you were gonna make it or whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't know about that. But like so she didn't let me audition as a kid. And I think that really helped me because I had the most kind of full childhood.
Mhm.
Like I really did. I played every sport. My siblings and I were running around. We were doing shows, playing outside with my neighbors, and so much of my experience from when I was a kid to 18 is everything that I pull from in every part that I play. And yeah, so I guess the advice or something I would say is if your kid is working to really fight for them to have real childhood experiences. Because from an acting standpoint, I mean, I'm just speaking artistically, like I think it really helps to be around normal kids and not just industry people. Yeah, like, I mean, it's fun to be around LA people, but it's doesn't really inspire for me my work. And that's so much of my inspiration comes from the real people I grew up with that don't even know what IMDb is, like so it's helpful. But yeah, I would say that. I'd say
Yeah.
have those real experiences.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of actors have talked about sort of like, their advice for actors who are like in college or like fresh out of, of their BFA program or conservatory or whatever it is that they're doing,
Mhm.
is to like travel, have real experiences, experience the
Yeah,
world so you can draw on that. And of course, the same goes for kids. It's like, go be a kid because you're a kid actor. You're gonna always play younger.
yeah,
No 14-year-old that's playing 18. It's usually the other way around. It's the young looking 18-year-olds playing 14. Um, and sort of just making sure that they have enough to draw on. It's like, oh, you don't know what a fun summer is like because you're always working on set. Well, take a
yeah,
summer, take a summer off and experience that so you have that to draw on.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for Snack Shack. I mean, this
Mm.
was so true to my kind of experiences of my childhood. Obviously, it wasn't the 90s, but we, I would, my parents, I was the last kid to get an iPod Touch. Like, we're very kind of granola family in that way. So I was, I definitely felt like I pulled from a lot of that. And same with college. I mean, I studied sociology, and my main reason for staying at UCLA and finishing was because of the people I was surrounded by. Like I was
Mm.
in LA, but I was around a bunch of people from all over. And that was always really cool to me because LA is LA.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that too.
Like, that sort of $1 million question we get from so many of our listeners that are young actors is how do I get my first agent or manager? They just don't know where to start and sort of put upon many young actors. Like you kind of need an agent manager to get the ball rolling and to get those like legit auditions and whatnot. So what advice do you have for anyone who's like struggling to get that first rep?
I would say the first thing is just start submitting yourself. Right when I landed in LA, within the first month, I was on Actors Access I was doing like 3, 4 short films a month, thesis films at all the colleges, all that stuff. And for me specifically, a short film that I did, and I think they paid me $25 and like a water bottle or something, like $25 for gas to get there. I did it 2 days, and that led to me getting my manager. So then I mean, they were like, we cast this kid. He was so like random. We didn't even know who he was. And then I got my manager from that. So I think the best thing that you can do is just do as much as you can, like be as part of as many things as you can, and do it that way. Um, and just look at the actors that are doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
It kind of always baffles me. I'm like, I see so many actors that are trying to pursue it or just got out of college, and even down to their Instagrams or the things that they're doing, they I'm like, look at the actors that are doing what you want to do and emulate it. Like you don't need to like have headshots in a million different costumes with big pink back. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even have a headshot or a reel when I first started working. Like I just had a photo that someone took in portrait mode on an iPhone and then went from there. So it's important, but I think people get really caught up in their materials versus just actually getting out and doing work. Like that's the best way, is just always come back to the work
Yeah.
and just do good work, and then follow up on the rest of it. But yeah, but do good work.
Yeah. And were you still in school during like the sort of like the early days of COVID and whatnot, or were you out by that point?
I was. Yeah, I was. I was a freshman at UCLA when COVID hit, and then
Wow.
yeah, and I hadn't really started acting either, so I was definitely a Zoom a Zoom baby, a Zoom Hollywood baby. But worked out. I mean, I guess Zoom worked out
Yeah.
for me, but yeah.
I mean, it definitely set you up for the future of self tapes and Zoom callbacks and all that stuff and not
Yeah.
doing much in person, even still to this day. I feel like it's still, I mean, I don't think we'll ever fully go back to how things were before, but it's definitely not fully adapted.
I know. I don't even. I really only went in person a couple times. I didn't experience that printing headshot world. Yeah, it's different, but I guess it's better to start one way so I didn't have to relearn anything.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. But during COVID, during the strikes, during sort of all this uh, collective trauma that we all went through as artists and people in entertainment, do you how did you stay motivated? How did you stay creative during those times where we really couldn't do much during that time?
I love to read, and I kind of have had this foresight of wanting to start my production company, which I'm excited that will get going soon. I was just kind of pre-reading books and kind of developing a palette of the stuff that eventually I wanted to make. So that's a lot of what I did in COVID, was honestly just reading scripts and reading books, and sort of, as I said, how I grew up. I didn't watch a lot of movies growing up,
Mm.
didn't watch a lot of TV. Again, my family didn't know what IMDb was. Like we were not, we weren't that family. We were camping. So in LA, and during COVID especially, I just tried to develop a palette to kind of figure out what I like, what I want to do, types of books I want to hopefully, produce one day,
Mm.
and work on that. So that's kind of what I did. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that helps, but that's what I was doing during COVID.
Yeah. And are there any particular skills that you feel aren't really talked about enough in terms of like, things that actors should develop that may help you both in your career and just like day-to-day life, sort of similarly to like just go out and experience life, try new things. But yeah, in terms of like special skills, does anything come to mind?
I would just say that to it's not a special skill, but I talk to so many actors that I know that are even friends of mine that they're always like kind of use this, I'm not really sure if this is what I want to do. I'm not really sure if like I even want to do this. Like, and that's like their thing as they're like pursuing it.
Mm.
And I would just say to give yourself a time period and just 100% go for it. Like,
Yeah.
because it's such a difficult industry that if you're not going 100% like pedal to the metal and like really going for it, you're it's not like, you know what I mean? It's just hard to be. So many of my friends are talented, but they're just kind of like, oh, like I'm gonna try for it, I'm gonna go for it, and the line of people that are 100% going for it is so deep. So yeah, I don't know if that's a skill. I would just say go for it at the start because
Yeah.
it only gets more difficult, I think, the longer you're going is maybe what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
use the fearlessness. I'm like don't wait. Like that's why I say like even if you're in college, start auditioning. Because if you're 4 years of doing college and then you start auditioning, like that first couple years when you're pursuing it, like that's gonna be your most fearless. Like I was insane. I was dropping things off at casting office, like headshots at casting offices. I was running around LA, like doing short films for that were costing me money, like
Right.
to drive there. So it's like, just I would just say use that energy, that fresh energy. People love it, and it's really refreshing out here. So I hope I don't lose that. I hope I don't get jaded. But yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you said, sort of just having that hunger for it and just
Mhm.
that drive because like you said, Lord knows lots of actors when they're sort of going through it, like you said, there's like if you have that constant doubt, I can't imagine that ever being helpful. I feel like, no one found success passively. No one just comes
Yeah,
across success. It's because
totally.
it's like that combination, that old adage of, preparation and luck. And then when those both intersect is when, you know, you have that
Yeah.
success.
And just like having obviously writing your goals down, that's I'm all about that. That's a whole nother conversation. But it I don't know, I was never really precious about auditions. Like I
Mm,
think that helps. I was
yeah.
never I think I've only been really like devastated for like maybe two roles I didn't get when I went through a couple rounds, but it only lasted 2 hours or an hour and a half, a phone call to my mom where I'm like, complaining, but it's so much not about if you're doing good work and you believe in it, it really I don't know. I've made peace with the fact that usually it's because I'm too tall or they hate my hair. I don't know. So like yeah, I guess I would just say what you said. Just have being fearless.
But yeah,
Love it.
as we wrap up, we have our final sort of we always like to wrap up with a game called It's Time for Life's Big Questions. We always start with if you could have any superpower, what would you choose?
Ooh, ooh, mm, maybe like gosh, this I've never said this answer. I've been asked this before. This is so actor coded that this is almost embarrassing, but I think it would be cool to be I almost said invincible, but I mean like it would be cool to be able to get yeah, I guess invincible in terms of getting hurt because then I
Mm.
could do the most insane stunts, realistic, like with my face and everything, and know that I wouldn't be like I could get hit by a train and be okay, but like they could shoot it like real. I think that would be a game changer, and I would be able to not step on a Lego and be hurt either. It would be I see my real life as well, but yeah, also for work.
What is your favorite show to binge watch?
Right now, I'm watching Last of Us, and
Ah,
that's definitely a
good,
binge
good
movie,
choice.
binge TV show. Feels like a movie.
What is your favorite movie quote?
Ooh, um, oh gosh, I know these are supposed to be rapid fire. Uh, I'm like it. This, it's not. I don't think it's my favorite. It's all I can think of right now on the spot. But life is like a box of
Oh
chocolates.
yeah,
You
classic.
never know what you're gonna get. Yeah, I do love Forrest Gump though.
What show are you dying to be a guest star on?
Ooh, just I mean, Last of Us. Like I'm watching it right
Yeah.
now, so I'm super in it. That would be killer. That'd be so fun. And I know Stormy. Uh, I think I don't remember her last name, but she just was a guest star on Last of Us. She was amazing.
Oh yeah,
For a couple,
Storm Reed. Yeah, she won an Emmy for it.
yeah, she won an Emmy. I saw that, and her performance was amazing.
Yeah.
So I'd love to guest star on that show. They're writing good guest stars
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah.
After a long week of filming, what do you do to unwind and recover?
Epsom salt bath. I'm
Smart.
a bath guy. Yeah,
What movie never fails to make you laugh?
super bad. Oh, and uh, Bridesmaids. It
Both really
does.
good choices.
Yeah.
And what movie never fails to make you cry?
Mrs. Doubtfire, always.
Really interesting.
Yeah, and I just always. I mean, yeah. And War Horse. War Horse was
Oh,
the first movie I ever cried in as a kid. don't even think I've seen it since, but I know that that made me sob when I was like 13 or something.
Okay, dream project. 6 seasons of a show, a trilogy of films, or a Broadway musical or play that you win a Tony Award for.
Ooh. Wait, repeat one more time.
Yeah.
A
So
movie?
6 seasons of a show, a
Uh-huh.
trilogy of movies, or a
Uh-huh.
Broadway musical or play that you win a Tony Award for.
Oh my gosh, a play that I won a Tony for. The 6 episodes could be shitty. It could be a shitty trilogy. If I'm getting, that means I was in an amazing play on Broadway. Oh, I'm there. It's also something I'm dying to do, but
Yeah.
yeah, because that means it was good. So
Right.
it was a good script and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. What is your favorite performance that you've seen live?
live. Ooh, I was just in New York actually. I really enjoyed. I saw uh, I saw Book of Mormon, but I thought the guy who played the oh my gosh, I'm losing it. I'm losing the names.
To like the main one, Elder Cunningham.
No, he played no, I almost said Seth Rogen. He played what's his name? Let me just redo this whole answer. I didn't know the band Blackpink when I went to their concert
Oh,
a couple months ago. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go." On the drive there, I listened to their music and realized I knew all their songs, and I was just far out of the loop, and that was an amazing performance.
yeah,
They're insane.
yeah,
Like that was wild. It blew my mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
K-pop is never a bad show ever.
I and I had no idea. I was in great seats out of nowhere. It was a gift someone brought me, and I was truly like the entire time. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Yeah, they were awesome.
And lastly, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Work harder than you think you need to work, and know that it's only going to get become more work.
Just all
Like get
hyphenated, just
excited about the
one long
work.
word.
Yeah, maybe the better one is get excited about the work because on and off screen, specifically off screen because on screen's always fun. Okay, so that was 30 words. So screwing that, but yeah.
And that was like in 10 seconds or less. So that's fine. We'll change it for that. But
Okay, yeah.
Connor, thank
I just
you.
talk really fast, so yeah.
Connor, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to chat with us. And congrats on Snack Shack. It was such a fun watch.
Thanks, Juan. This
Yeah.
was fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, you can catch Snack Shack in theaters right now. And I'm sure very, very soon it'll be out on digital to be able to buy, rent, stream, wherever. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to Actors with Issues on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and visit our YouTube channel for full video interviews. Actors with Issues is executive produced and hosted by Juan Ayala. See you next time.